Yes, now, and welcome back to episode 149 of the Top Load podcast. And this week will be a bite-sized episode, just talking about a few news articles, issues, and different bits within the hobby before we have our special guest next week. And we build into a very busy period within the card world. But before I get into this episode, a massive thanks to the guys over at Third Down UK for powering up this episode of the Top Load podcast. Whether you need card stands, grade preparation kits, card supplies, you name it, they're the one place to go and get all your needs. And if you use the code TTP10 at checkout, that will save you 10% off whatever you order. And going on to my next talking points this week, and there's a few different ones I want to talk about. There's not much really going on within the card world at the moment, but I was listening to an interesting conversation, and a very good question was asked of me what my thoughts were about comps. I know this is the old conversation of comps and where do you go with comps. However, I thought it was quite a good point that person made. And I would like to get into it. Obviously, the question we do get quite a lot, and what I always want to try and do on this podcast is, yes, we have been going for near enough 3 years now, but you might have been in the hobby for 1 week, you might have been in it for 10 years. So there's some things you might understand more. And when you look at comps, the comparison prices on a card, it's very intriguing because there's a lot of ways you do it. There's multiple currencies, different platforms. How do you compare? Because some things might be a trade deal, but private. How do you get a price of a card? And the main question that was asked before I go into some subjects of, like, relating to it was, how much does the quality of an eBay listing affect the price of a card? And I think it was a sensational point, because if you think about it, say, for example, off the top of my head, I've used this example here, Beth Mead Red Sapphire. If the person's listed a picture, just one picture, just one card, it's dark, you can't really see the card, the listing might say Beth Mead Red Chrome. There's so many things that go with picking a comp, and okay, I know for a buyer you always want to be selling it for the most possible, and if you're selling it, you want it for the most possible, and if you want to buy it, you want to realistically buy as cheap as possible. However, there is a lot to take in, and there's actually a rise when I was looking at one of my cards when I was trying to comp it the other day, and that card was this one, which was an Itana Bonmati Orange Chrome, and I was looking at the listings, and there was 4 listings ranging from $57 to $95. And every single listing was different. And that's where I really got thinking about this. And how much does the quality of the imagery, the description, the title especially, affect the price of a card? And obviously, we all know that if the name is misspelled or it's the wrong set or something like that, that will make a big impact. However, if you was going to buy a card, and I'm going to throw this situation on you, say, for example, you are scrolling through eBay. You see a card which is dark in imagery. It's kind of, they're just taking the card pictures like this. It's in their hands. You might think, is that really legit? You know, you can see their feedback, but I've done it multiple times. We caution it. You're like, it doesn't look that good how they've done it. And there was 2 cards coming to an end, and they went for $30 difference in pricing. Exactly the same card, same parallel, same set. The one that was dark in imagery, just one image at the front, wasn't that clear, the corners, any scratches or anything like that, went for about $48, I think it was. And then one finishing just after it was perfect lighting, card's picture taken at the front, taken back, very good lighting, listed up perfectly, set, year, player's name, parallel, and that went for $30 more. So it's not the card that's doing more, but you have to get these listings right when people are listening. And this is why it comes back to this comps of, when you're looking at a comp, it's not just the most recent one. How I see it, obviously, some cards of shorter print, you won't be able to do price comparisons over multiple cards. How I like doing it is taking 3 cards and then dividing the 3, and that works out an average. So say if one went for 30, one went for 50, one went for 70, I would average it out at $50. Obviously, there's always going to be anomalies that will make it go higher or lower. But when pricing a card, what do you look at? And I think it's a really good point. There's a lot of things that will come into effect. Though, don't just look at the price of the card. Have a look at the condition. Have a look, is it graded? Like, because, for example, if you see a card on there and the person lists it saying read and there's a massive scratch and it went for $20, that's not a comp on that card. That's a comp on a damaged version. So when you are looking on 130-point card ladder, whatever platform it is that you like to price comparison your cards, do have a look in detail at the cards, because it's one of these that, yes, don't get me wrong, these platforms are great, but you need to do your research. And at the end of the day, a comp is just a comp. I've had cards where I bought in my collection that I've probably paid over the top for because I just really wanted that card. And I no doubt every single person, wherever you are in the world, is listening to this. At one point, you would have overpaid for a card. It's just natural, because if you really want something, you're going to go and buy it for what it is. And that's another thing to take into account of. I know this is why some people prefer the auction route compared to the fixed price / best offer route, that if you get two buyers that are really interested in it, it will push up the price of the card. It will raise the comps. You might get more. However, obviously on the flip side, it could have less interest and then it goes for less. So it's always a tricky one selling. One of the good friends of the podcast, LGL, he had a Bukayo Saka Futera rookie 2.8, and I thought this was a point I wanted to bring up on here. Fantastic card, very short print. Comp, if you put a rough price on it, you'd probably say in the 100 to 140 area. And you list it up on auction and it can go for a lot less, which it did. But it proves that it's all very situational. You've got to get lucky when selling a card, in my personal opinion. The right person at the right time wanting to buy the card can raise it by 50 quid, 100 quid. I think the perfect example is like, for example, at a card show. Say someone has this was a true case of what happened at one of the card shows. There was a Stina Blackstone, so I actually have the card here as well. This card was a perfect example here. 1 of 1 Stina from Knockout. Person had it listed up, messaged me privately to say this card is for sale. And I think they had it, I can't remember how much we done the deal for, and I think it was around 300 area. But anyone else seeing that card would be like, I wouldn't pay that price. I would probably offer you 150 for it. But for me, in my collection, I think that's a very fair price, so I just bought it. So it's all about the right person at the right time. If I say, for example, here next to me, I have an Eterna Bonmati to 10 from her own set. Someone who collects Bonmati, who really likes that card image, is more likely to pay a higher premium. So you just got to get lucky with your audience. And relating it back to my original point before I went off tangent, was your listing on eBay, you've got to get it right. If you get that wrong, it can heavily affect the price of your cards. And I think that is why some people do prefer card shows. You can put a price on it, then they can come over and just look at it. Whereas on eBay, the algorithm gods have got to be in your favor. Is sometimes that it pinpoints someone into your card rather than someone else's, and you get a spree of selling cards and it's quiet and then you sell. So it's a massive thing, eBay, with comps. But you got to remember, and this is another great point that someone I was listening to the other day made of, you look at the 130 point or card ladders comps. Okay, they look at eBay, PWCC, Card Hobby now occasionally. However, there's so many platforms that comps won't show up on. Won't show up card sales. It won't show up Instagram. It won't show up card shows. It won't show up Whatnot. Fanatic Collectibles, I don't believe, is on there yet. eBay Live, when it comes out, will be interesting to see if that goes on there as well, which it should do. But, for example, there could be a card that sells on auction on Whatnot, and no doubt every single person here can attend that they have been in a stream where a card is either just been bidded up galore or vice versa, has gone for a lot cheaper. And I think this is a massive thing to always think about when buying or selling cards of. Shop around first. If it's a card that's numbered to 3, okay, there's a high chance that will be the card. There's a high chance because there's not many else out there that it will be a premium. There's another example. For example, here, this is a Rosa Kafaji Red Sapphire. So there's only 5 of them to begin with. One has sold on eBay for $350. I bought one on release for less than that, and I've bought one through Dub Breaks. So that's 60% of the cars. One person's already bought one, so that you would say that is in someone's PC. I have one just coming back from PSA now, which is a 10, so that's off the market. So that leaves 60% of the cards. I have one here, so that means there's only 2 cards out there, which will run a premium because someone will be more likely to spend a bit more knowing that there's only 2 more out there to collect. What is the odds of them 2 cards being pulled? And if they are pulled, that the person's going to want to sell them. And at the same time, you're going to be able to get it at the price that you want. So that's another thing to think of when selling cards. Of always think about the scarcity of an item. Obviously, we talk about scarcity more when it comes to one of ones. However, there's a lot of cards out there to 3 to 5 to 10 to 20. I asked our good friend GBW with his Charlie Austin rainbows collecting there. There's a card in his rainbow to 25. He's been looking for it for about 2.5 years or whatever it might be now, and he hasn't found it. So if that comes up, you'll see most people just skip past it. And if it had, honestly, people would skip past it if it said £2 on it. But if it said £30 on it, he would buy it for £30. So it's down to the right person at the right time. And that's another massive thing when it comes to selling cards. What do you price it at? And obviously, most people out there have been very fortunate for myself that you've been tuning in for a very long time. But if you want an episode delving into more comps and stuff like that, just let us know. Or even if you want a conversation, drop me a message on, you can see my actual username just down below here, RP Trading Cards. Or you can drop us a podcast message, and no doubt I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. But moving on to the next topic now, and obviously for anyone who is coming along, massive thanks yet again for Paul and Team of Trade Week Cards for coming on last week. It was a fantastic episode. It's gone down really well with everyone. I will be up at the store on February the 1st, so Saturday, February the 1st. Hopefully, you see quite a few guys there. I will be doing some content there as well, which should be fun. Hopefully buying some cards for my PCs, whether it's the Arsenal women's PC or maybe the Team GB, but I'm hoping to pick up some Arsenal Forever Autos there. So do go along. The store is opening up on 31st of January. So if you can head down to Loughborough or up to Loughborough, wherever you may be, please do so, because I know they much appreciate it. But obviously moving on as well. Now, it is slowly coming into card show season. I don't know where this time has come from. It's as of today of it coming out. It is the Tuesday the 21st of January. The London Card Show is the 8th of February. We're only 2 and a bit weeks away, really, 3 weeks away from the London Card Show yet again. And before I talk about card shows, if you have entered it, good luck for the raffle. I've entered it as well. This Thursday at the Fanatics Collect store in West London, they will be hosting a trade night, which sounds quite intriguing. I think there's 2 sessions, one 6 to 7:30, and the second one 7:30 to 9. So I'm hopefully going along to that. That would be real fun. Nice interlude to the card show. So if you are entered the ballots for that one, good luck. Let us know if you are going, what time. Hopefully I'll be able to see some of you guys down there. If I do get lucky enough to come along, that should be fun. But obviously now it is card show season. They start rolling in thick and fast now. And it's another thing to consider, and something that people don't really talk about much within the hobby, which is budgeting. And I know this episode might be a bit more bit boring, so dull for you people who've been listening on. Don't worry, next week and the next couple of weeks there's some very special guests. But this is an interesting topic I wanted to talk to people about. And everyone's obviously got different means of finances. Some people might have £20 for cards every month. Some people might have 5,000 for cards. And I've always found it quite intriguing that no matter how much someone has to spend on cards, bar 2 to 3% of people, everyone has the same thing of when there's a card they want, they will sell a card or two to fund it. And I was having this conversation with someone the other day because they picked up an absolutely beautiful card and then they were selling some cards. And I said to them, it's very refreshing as well, because when some of these collectors do start selling some of their cards off, these are cards that a lot of people probably thought were off the market. They're no longer moving in circulation. And obviously now their collection has picked up another card for it, they go, you know, I can let these ones go to pay for it, but also to let collectors have it. And for people who don't follow the women's side, I know it's obviously a bit more heavy women's themes, but you can use this in general. There is a fantastic Discord for the women's soccer community, which if you want to join it, if you're a part of the women's thing and you're not in it, drop me a message and I'll send you a link to it. One of my good friends in America, Mitch, had a stack sale and he was selling cards off. And it really got me thinking of how important the community is to card collecting. And especially some of the markets where there's not as many people participating in it, so to speak. I really see how people look after each other. They don't want to overcharge people. People know you're looking for a certain card; they will help you out. Um, I think everyone's been in that situation where someone's listed up a card for sale. How many people DM you or they screenshot it and send it to you, or it's just a fantastic community, and it really got me thinking about how the community really builds the hobby. And there's certain stuff which rumbling on in the background within the hobby that always undermines the core values of it. And hopefully, like I say, the true collector out there will always stick by these principles and look out for each other, because no doubt everyone's been in that situation where someone always helps someone out. And like I say, I'm always happy to, whether someone just wants to chat, whether they want to buy a card, sell a card, just talk, that just be open to people. Everyone's in it as a hobby at the end of the day. And please just like, I know there's a lot of negativity in the hobby, but enjoy yourself. Collect what you want to collect. Don't care what everyone looks at you and say, well, why are you collecting that player? If you collect them, fine, be brilliant. Collect something. It's nice to see people not collecting original, like different stuff, and it gets you thinking. You look at it and you go, you know what, I really like the look of it. And talking about collecting other stuff, and there's been some news obviously in hobby with different licensing. Obviously, it's been a massive thing over the last 24 to 30 months of Fanatics buying up near enough every single license. Obviously, they got the Premier League, they got the MLB, they got NFL, they got NBA. I think they've got, yeah, it's because they already had MLB. And now they've got the WWE. And some people might think this of, oh, who cares about wrestling? I actually think this is one of the best acquisitions Fanatics could have done. And I think, and I'm going to explain why. Um, Near enough everyone when they was younger, no matter whether it was the Hulk Hogan era, it was the John Cena era, whoever it may have been, watched wrestling at one point. I probably stopped watching it 12, 13 years ago. But now it's gone back on Netflix. And now it's live on Netflix 3 times a week, whether it's SmackDown, NXT, or Raw, wherever it may be. And the popularity of the WWE has absolutely skyrocketed since it's gone back on Netflix. It's an absolute brilliant move by the WWE and the ownership company and Netflix. And now Topps have got the rights for it. And it's one of these sets that will trigger people's memories of their childhood. Straight away, we can officially announce we have Undertaker on card auto. Now, I don't care anyone tells me. It doesn't matter if you've not watched wrestling for 20 years or 2 weeks. If you get a chance of an Undertaker on card auto, that is really cool. We see it with their Topps Nails, what they've been doing. They've done quite a few for the opening night of Raw on Netflix. They'll no doubt they'll do it for all their pay-per-views like WrestleMania, Survivor Series and all that. And it really is interesting. We've seen darts. Obviously, wrestling is always, it's been massive, Panini. And Panini done a very good job with WWE. But there's so many licenses out there that still are not being utilized. Obviously, now we're seeing PDC, obviously the first set with Panini, my apologies. And it really got me thinking there's so many things out there that could have sets that hopefully we will see. WSL, for one, would be really cool. There's some movie franchises that are really, really cool. We've seen some Netflix shows as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fanatics do some sort of Netflix card collection. That would be something that I do anticipate in the not too distant future. And obviously, staying with Topps, and all right, people are going to say it's broken records. But there actually is some news, and whatever you're doing, if you're driving, please drive responsibly. But there is some news on the Topps and the Team GB world after all this time. Some great work by some of the Team GB collectors, especially Fab Tickets and Slabs, for keep talking to Topps. They've finally released, no, don't get too ahead of yourself. They haven't released the parallels yet, which we're still working really hard to get out. But they've finally released their print runs. So the Olympic Games was the end of July, August time, and now we're in January. So it took about 6 months, so half a year to get the print run, and it was exactly what we thought. I think the highest print run was the Keely Hodgkinson at about 280 or 300, which is still absolutely nothing in comparison to the others. Depending on each card, which of parallels were available, 110 parallels. So even for the hardest of hard cards, you've got about a 1 in 3 chance of getting it, which is really good. Still no news on the parallels, so what we can just hope is that they do come out soon. There's a few other sets that we're still waiting for parallels on, such as the Bonmati, Rodri, Lamine Yamal, Ballon d'Or cards. We're still waiting for the parallels on them ones. A few have murmured in America, but still nothing major yet. So we're still awaiting those. I know they're just clearing through the backlog of some of the UEFA Women's Champions League cards and some of the Champions League ones. So we're waiting on them ones. Moving away from Topps at the moment, we go over to the world of Panini. Yes, they've actually got a couple of sets coming out, which is quite good. I think one of the sets that everyone does love, Panini Donruss, is coming back very soon. Obviously, Kabooms, we are led to believe that it is along the lines of the American system of the actual card will be coloured for the parallels rather than the actual writing, which would be... I actually don't think they're as bad as people made out the writing, but obviously the full card being gold or green for the one-on-ones will be spectacular. So hopefully they do go for that principle next year. And Immaculate is coming out as well. One is more one of the more premium sets, normally area £1,000 per box. Hopefully we see a lot more match worn stuff. Highly doubt it. I just don't see it ever happening really anymore. Especially with Fanatics getting a lot of the signed memorabilia and also jerseys from match worn. So yeah, that should be intriguing. Nice set. When that comes out, we'll be able to bring in more, but we're waiting on that set. Like, will it be delayed? Will it not be delayed? You know how it all goes nowadays. But last talking point of the day is grading. I've got my 2 big cards that have finally come back from grading, as I promised you. I'll show them off here. Just before I do, absolute shame. It's taken 149 episodes for a plug, but I'm going to do it. I recently uploaded a reel on my Instagram. I'm going to really try and get into the content as well this year on the RP Trading Cards channel and branding. So if you don't mind heading over and checking that out, it's just a little video of me going to collect my 2 biggest cards in my collection from Subcenter. Massive thanks to them guys as well for absolute fantastic service on these 2 cards, which I will be showing off now. Obviously, you want the best grades possible. These were 2 1-of-1, so it's always tricky. This one was a bit of a letdown to begin with. I was really hoping for a minimum 9. It did get 8, but it's still an absolute stunning card. So the first one up for people who are watching along, if you only listening along, head over to my Instagram and you'll see the cards. The first one is this card here. This is the Stina Blackstenia Super Fractor Sapphire Selections. It did get a PSA 8, but it doesn't do it justice, this angle. Super Fractor is just a genuinely stunning card to look at. One of my favorite cards I own. And then the biggest card of my PC, which I'm still shocked to this day that I do own this card. I'm very fortunate for the opportunity. Massive thank you out for El Toro for the assist on getting this deal over the line. And this one I was expecting to get a PSA 8 because the Donruss set is very notorious for whitening on the corners and edges. But the Alessia Russo, who's on absolute fire at the moment for Arsenal women, got the PSA 9. And just to say, PSA at the moment, and this is my last talking point. PSA at the moment are running such an efficient job, and it really. I remember when I started this podcast, the conversation was, do you grade with PSA or SGC? Because SGC is brilliant. You're going to get it back within 4 weeks, and then you can flip it by the time PSA takes 6 to 8 months. I'm not going to use these as an example because these were regular. However, we did do a special, which I'm picking up the cards this week. So now the question is, at the price point of what PSA is, so Value Plus, I believe it's called, or Saying along their lines, it was a $25 special. And at $25 special, it popped within 3 weeks and it was back in hand within 4. And at that price, at $25 a card, all right, how I equate it with postage and everything from the UK, 25 to £27 a card for a 4-week turnaround is absolutely incredible. Okay, it's a special, but the turnarounds and the efficiency they're working at, there is a slight delay at the moment. They did tweet out last week that they've had an absolute influx of parcels into their US warehouses, that there was a slight delay of actually unpackaging and putting them into the system. But once they're in the system, they are so efficient at the moment, PSA. And I really would recommend to people. I personally done, so I've got an 8-card sub coming back this week. I've sent a 7-card sub. And I've sent off a 6 tickets as well. They're going to be quite a bit longer. I'm probably expecting 6 months on them. The cards should be about a month and a half, which should be fantastic. So for the people who are watching along / listening, please do think about grading. If you're selling, it's a very liable idea of getting your cards PSA, because everyone knows might not be the best slabs, it might not be best grading, whatever it may be, but PSA is king, and it always will be king. I know people, it was once upon a time PSA versus BGS. BGS are not even in the top 4 near enough anymore. It's PSA and PSA only. So I do recommend, if you are getting anything graded, do it now, because they are running a very efficient shop. But like I say, it's a bit of a smaller episode, but I am absolutely thrilled to announce that for the 150th episode, I wanted to bring on a very special guest. And obviously, join us next week is the one, the only Trite. One of our very good friends in America will be joining us. So I can't wait to bring you next week's episode already. It's always a great episode when he joins us. A lot to catch up on, a load of American shows, just a lot happening, which is going to be great. And then obviously, by the time you know it, we've got another couple of special guests lined up, but London Card Show is around the corner as well. So the next few weeks are going to be very busy. But like I say, if there's any people that you want to get on, any talking points as well, do let me know, whether via the RP Trading Cards Instagram page or the Top Loaded Podcast on Instagram. But like I'm saying, massive thank you yet again. If you are on YouTube, drop a like, drop that follow as well. If you're on Spotify, please follow the podcast and leave 5 stars as well. It helps us massively, like you don't know. But like I say, a massive thanks yet again to the guys over at Third Down UK for powering up this episode of the Top Loaded Podcast. Whether you need card supplies, custom card stands, great preparation kits, or whatever it may be, head over to their website, use the link in my bio, and use TTP10 at checkout for 10% off. But most importantly, I hope everyone out there is staying safe, doing well, having a lovely start to 2025. It's near enough February already. But most importantly, I hope everyone out there is buying, selling, trading, and all that good jazz. But most importantly, happy hobbying, and good night.